For almost a decade now, I'm teaching people how to program and how to do machine learning, and recently, over the last 1 or 2 years, unsurprisingly, I've been getting the same question more and more often, which is it even worth to learn programming nowadays? Is it even worth to learn the machine learning fundamentals nowadays? Because of course, we have coding agents that can do everything for us. Goats like Andrej Karpathy talk about how they don't write code manually anymore, and even I myself have posted this on LinkedIn and other platforms multiple times, that most of my coding is done via coding agents nowadays. So in this video, I want to tackle this issue from multiple angles. On the one hand, I want to talk about the is it worth it question, but also want to talk about how to position yourself in order to maximize your relevance and success, and what kind of skills are actually going to be important in the near future. I will answer these questions from a general programming and computer science perspective, but of course this channel is to some degree focused on AI and machine learning, so I will try to give more examples in that industry. If you get value out of this video and you want to see more content like this, let me know by hitting a like button and subscribing. And now, let us get right into it. Now we're going to go very fast in this video today. I'm going to try to condense a lot of information, a lot of opinions, a lot of advice into a short amount of time. So if this moves too quickly for you, feel free to slow down the video, to pause it, or to watch it twice if necessary. As I mentioned in the introduction, I'm going to try to cover this from multiple angles. The first question we're going to answer is learning anything worth it nowadays? Anything being anything software related, technical, so coding, computer science, AI, machine learning, data science, whatever. You can insert your favorite field in here. The second question will be about whether coding agents and AI will replace you and take your jobs. And the third question will be about how you should position yourself in the age of AI, in the age of coding agents, what skills are going to be in demand, and what you should learn to be valuable in the near future, and also hopefully beyond that. So maybe 60 seconds about myself. Who am I? I started coding when I was a little child. I started coding with Visual Basic 2008. Then I moved to Java. Then I moved to C#. And at some point, I doubled down on Python. So I went the whole data science, pandas, scikit-learn, machine learning, PyTorch route. And nowadays, I'm teaching people how to program, how to do machine learning using a YouTube channel, which you're watching right now, and also using books. In addition to that, I also do freelancing. I also co-founded a startup as a technical co-founder. And if you care about stuff like this, I did technical high school and I also did technical university. So all I'm saying here is that I basically did a ton of development work before coding agents, and nowadays I do a lot of development work with coding agents. So I think I have a pretty good overview over the industry, and I see certain patterns that I want to talk about today. So let us start now with the first question, which is learning XYZ worth it nowadays? And XYZ can be anything. It can be machine learning, computer science, data science, web development, Python, cybersecurity, insert anything software related here. And in my opinion, for 99% of things that you can insert here, the answer is clearly yes. Now, this is because, in my opinion, multiple things can be true at the same time. On the one hand, learning to code and understanding the fundamental concepts of computer science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science is crucial and is what makes you a skilled engineer. However, the second point can also be true at the same time, which is that as an experienced programmer, as an experienced machine learning engineer, coding agents will probably write most of your code. You're not going to be typing out code manually. And this is not a contradiction, because what is commoditized is lines of code. So lines of code are already a commodity. Taking something, intelligent workflows, an intelligent idea, and putting it into code is a commodity nowadays with coding agents. This is not something that you want to position yourself having as a USP as a human, because writing code is cheap nowadays. However, what is not commoditized is the intelligence, the architecture, the thinking, the creativity behind the entire project. In fact, I think that this is going to be a rare skill in the future in a world full of AI slop, that you actually can think for yourself, that you can think critically, that you can solve problems without coding agents, without LLMs, that your first instinct when you encounter a problem is not to run to some AI to ask it for a solution, but to only use the AI as a tool and to actually think proactively yourself. Because this is also what's going to allow you to determine whether your agent produces garbage code, garbage output, or not. You can only be the software architect if you understand the fundamentals. You can only guide your agents if you understand the fundamentals. And of course, you can only make design decisions for architectures and also for machine learning architectures, so for model architectures, if you understand the fundamentals and what is going on behind the scenes. I personally think that deep understanding is even going to be more so important when it comes to AI and machine learning, because the shallow AI ML skills are already useless, I would say. You can do basic ML stuff with coding agents and you don't need to understand anything. But if you really want to deliver value, you need to be an expert. You need to be able to reason from first principles. And you can only do that if you properly study the concepts, if you learn the math, if you learn the PyTorch stuff, if you learn the statistics surrounding it. You need to understand things from the bottom up, from the ground up, to be valuable as an AI and machine learning engineer. Now let us move on to the second question, which is, will coding agents replace you? Will AI take your job? And in my opinion, for some of you, the answer might be yes. And instead of telling you how this is not the case, how you're not going to be replaced by AI, I will of course cover some of the things that you should do in order to stay relevant. But I want to outline briefly the categories of people, the archetypes, if you want to call it that, of people that are actually going to be replaced by AI, so you can make sure that you're not one of them. And the first category, in my opinion, is script kiddies. This is what we used to call vibe coders back in the day, even though there was no vibe coding. Basically, people that copy paste code, people that are good at a specific language. They are Python developers, they are JavaScript developers, they are Node.js developers, PHP developers. Their whole focus is on being good at a language, being good at a framework, not understanding concepts, not solving problems, not understanding the fundamentals, but knowing a tool, knowing a language, knowing the syntax. If this is you, if this is your USP, that you know the syntax of a framework, of a language, you will most likely be replaced because AI can study that in a second. It can read all of the documentation and probably is better than you in that framework or language to begin with. If not now, in a couple years. The second category of people that I think will be replaced are the AI refusers. These are the people that are so romantic about the past that they refuse to use AI tools altogether. They want to type every line of code manually. They don't want to automate anything using AI. And you've heard the sentence 1,000 times, you're not going to be replaced by AI, you're going to be replaced by someone who uses AI. And I think this is very true for this particular group. There is a small caveat though. I think that some people are so disproportionately cracked, so skilled, that it won't matter for them. If you're one of those, you maybe don't have to do it, even though I think it would still speed you up. But most people that are just AI refusers without being disproportionately cracked are at risk of being replaced, in my opinion. Now, the next category might sound a bit harsh, but it's people with zero social skills. This is because being a human is one of your USPs. People like to work with people, for the most part at least. And if people prefer to talk to agents than to talk to you, even if the agent is less competent, you are at risk of being replaced. I know this because I'm working with companies, they have their own in-house IT department, that could be developing applications for them, but they still hire me as a freelancer because they don't want to talk to their own IT department. Not because they're incompetent, but because they're just not pleasant to talk to. So what you want to be is you want to be the opposite of someone with zero social skills. You want to be a translation layer from business to tech and from tech to business. You want to be the interface that they can talk to, the pleasant interface that they can talk to get technical stuff done. If you're more pleasant to talk to than an agent, you're not at risk of being replaced, at least for now. If you are the opposite, if you are insufferable, people don't want to talk to you, they don't want to work with you. Again, only exception here is if you're disproportionately cracked, you can't afford to have zero social skills. The next category I like to call the human coding agents. What is a human coding agent? Basically the same as an artificial coding agent. They just follow instructions. You give them a prompt and they do it. They implement what you tell them to implement and not more than that. They are not proactive. All they can do is follow instructions and put instructions into code, or take a prompt and turn it into code. If that is your skill set, if you're not proactive, if you're not creative, if you're just following instructions and putting them into syntax, you are going to be replaced because agents do exactly that, and over time they're going to do it better than you. And then the last example category I want to cover here is the hesitant ones. A lot of you guys watching this now, if you keep procrastinating on educating yourself because you're constantly questioning whether it's worth it, whether it's a waste of time, you will be replaced because you end up with no skills. If you keep watching videos like this one instead of learning, you're going to be replaced because you have no skills at the end of the day. And similar examples. These are just 5 category examples. Basically, you can take the patterns that you spotted and formulate a couple more. The idea is, if you are romantic about the past, if you don't want things to change, if you're not adaptable, if you're basically just a machine turning instructions into code, you're going to be replaced because you're not doing anything proactive, you're not thinking in the big picture, you don't have fundamental skills, and you're not solving real problems. So now let us move on to the final question, which in my opinion is the most important one. How should you position yourself in the age of AI, and what skills should you focus on learning? What attributes should you focus on developing to stay relevant in the future? And I'm going to split this into 2 sections. The first one will be actual technical subfields and skills like AI and machine learning skills or subfields, and the second one will be soft skills, character attributes to develop to stay relevant overall. Now for the hard skills, here we have 6 examples. Of course, this is not a complete list, but one of the fields that I think will be super important is ML ops and AI ops. This means anything that has to do with orchestration. Cloud is an important point here. Anything that has to do with monitoring, evaluating, deploying models, AI systems, scaling AI systems. This is going to be a huge field because it requires big picture thinking, understanding system architecture. This is going to be a huge one. IT security, obviously, for 2 reasons. One, of course, is the AI security in and of itself. So model injection and stuff like this, but also, of course, a lot of code that is vibe coded, created with AI. This naturally produces a lot of vulnerabilities that need to be fixed or recognized. So that's going to be a huge field. Compliance, especially for those of you who, like me, are in the EU. I don't think that this is going to be exclusively an EU thing. But whenever you have stuff to comply to, so whenever you have maybe regulated industries like healthcare or finance, or when you are in Europe where a lot of regulation is happening, compliance in and of itself, even though it's maybe a boring field, will be super important. So if you can be the person that is an expert of safe and ethical AI, that is good at certifications and regulations, this is going to be a huge field. You can make a lot of money here. There's going to be a lot of demand in this field if that's interesting to you. Then my personal favorite is open source and local AI. I think this is going to be huge for similar reasons that compliance is going to be important, but also IT security, and also here ML ops and AI ops is important because people will be interested in having their own local AI systems. They don't want to be dependent on the US if they're not US citizens. They don't want to be dependent on companies like Anthropic and OpenAI. They want to have open source models. They want to deploy them locally. They don't want to pay someone for it. They don't want to have the risk of someone shutting down a service like Google oftentimes does. They want to be independent when it comes to compute, when it comes to intelligence and AI. So setting up local clusters, local data centers, local machines running open source models and orchestrating them. This also, again, goes hand in hand with ML ops. This is going to be a huge subfield in AI and ML, in my opinion. Then, of course, we have physical AI and robotics. This is a field that is on the rise, definitely. And it's one of the fields where Europe can still be relevant. If you are from Europe, this is an interesting field to look into. Anything that has to do with industrial AI, physical AI can be very, very lucrative and very interesting, very promising. And then, of course, even though my camera is blocking it, interdisciplinary AI in general. This means applying your AI and machine learning skills to niche industries. This can be EEG in healthcare. It can be drug discovery and pharmaceuticals. It can be chemistry. It can be finance. There's so many industries where you need to have domain-specific knowledge, where the state of the art when it comes to transformer-based architectures, for example, is not explored yet. So there's so much that you can do in specific industries to develop niche solutions. I think this is also going to be a very important field in the future. And then the last point I want to cover here is general skills, or soft skills, you could say. Of course, the most important one, adaptability combined with learning quickly. You need to be able to adjust when stuff is happening, when certain industries are becoming irrelevant. You need to be able to learn quickly and to adapt quickly. As I also said, you need social skills, and never before has it paid off that much to be a generalist. If you know a lot, if you are knowledgeable, and if you have a lot of skills that connect to one another across different industries, as I mentioned, interdisciplinary AI. Maybe you're good at chemistry, maybe you understand medicine and healthcare, and you're also an AI and machine learning expert. That is what can be very powerful. But the most important ones here, I would say, is adaptability and learning quickly. And so the final thing I want to give you here is be ready to pivot. This is the final advice I would give you here. Be ready to leave your subfield, be ready to learn something new. In my case, for example, of course, I'm in AI and machine learning, but if software completely becomes irrelevant at some point, I'm ready to pivot to robotics, I'm ready to pivot to hardware engineering, and you just need to be ready to change the field that you're working in. Don't get too attached to what you already know. Don't get too attached to your specific work that you're doing right now. Be ready to learn something new and pivot. So that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, on my website, you will find a services tab and a tutoring tab. If you're interested, you can contact me there. If you need a freelancer, if you need help with a project, you can find the links to contact me via LinkedIn and email at the bottom of both pages. Besides that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.